Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies. I think we're all ladies. Welcome to part 2 of the creating lessons in the Moodle, in the VLE. And last week, we quickly went through part 1 where we looked at the theoretical aspect, why lessons, how they support the UDL principles, and the different types of feedback that we can use when we set up our Moodle lessons. This week, we're going to delve into part 2, getting our hands dirty and building a lesson. My name is Michelle Stewart-McKoy, and I will be taking you through today's session. Helping me is Miss Barclay, our administrative support, Natasha Bartley, and she will be monitoring the chat when I go full screen, and she will also be posting our evaluation or any files that we have to share. All right, so without further ado, I am going to share my screen. Now, one of the things that you were asked to do last week was to put together your template. So we looked at a basic template and I went ahead and I did my template. So this is a template that I'm going to be using and I'll be copying information from it and pasting to the other section. All right. So let me just move that out of the way and I have that on hand. I also have my hyperlinks that I'm going to insert. I have opened the page for that. And I have a folder on my desktop, which has my images and a video and an audio file, because I want to ensure that I give my students multiple types of representation. And so I have all of these different types of content that I will be sharing. Now, here I am. Please let me know if you all can see my VLE dashboard. Yes? I'm not hearing anybody.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, so here I am. I logged in to my Moodle page and I am looking at all my courses, and the course that I am interested in is this one because this is where I'm going to build my Moodle lesson. All right. Now, if I view it as a student, let me just switch role to student. And this is one of the things that we should do when we're building our lessons, just to test it from how the student would see it. All right. So if I log in as a student, I would see that all the information is there and it says that I should click, and under the startup and task, I realize that I have my resources and then I have my activities. Now, this is the lesson that we are going, so or something similar that we're going to be building. Now, from a student's perspective, the reason this comes up is because I was testing it before from student perspective. All right. So from the student's perspective, the students would go in and the student would see that he or she has to go through the activity to the very end for it to be considered complete. All right. And I have a little bit of information that welcomes them. I have text and I have images. And here I have the different branches. Remember, we spoke about options where they could jump to different points. Well, these are they. So they can go anywhere. And it gives them the option that it gives them the feeling of choice. They can choose where they want to start. All right. So this is it. And as you can see down the bottom, I have a progression bar, which tells me how I am progressing through the lesson. Yes, Loy, I see your hand.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for that. I for some reason I'm not sure how you got there. So can you I'm seeing what is in front of my screen, but from my VLE platform, I was trying to follow, but I can't remember what you said or did, or I didn't notice.
Oh, I see. All right, let me go back to the beginning then. So, and then, well, here I am, I'm in student mode. So maybe I should come out of student mode and start from the very, very beginning. All right, so let me return to my normal role and let me go back to my courses. So here I am on the main page, okay? This is as facilitator, this is where I see the list of all the courses that I teach. This is the course that I want to go into. So I click on it, all right? Still following me? Yes?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I click on the section that I want to go in, and then I go down to the activity, because remember the lesson is an activity. Now, this view that I'm in is still teacher mode, meaning I can turn editing on and so forth. I want to take a quick look at this lesson that has been created in student mode. So I go up to where my profile picture is, or the icon if you don't set it up as yet, and I scroll down to switch role to, and I click on student. So it means that I am going to be looking at this lesson that has been created as a student would see the lesson. Okay? No. So this was where I was when you had asked. So I see the different options. I see that I have completed 78% of the lesson. And then I can decide where I want to start. So let me say I start with the killers. I go in, I see the information on killers. I have a little video here that I can easily watch.
I love the thrill of competition. Nothing beats the rush of outmaneuvering other players and claiming victory. Every match is a chance to prove I'm the best.
All right, so your students can watch the video. If you have a video, if it's an audio file, you can put it in, and then they can either return to the gamer menu, which has the 4 typologies, or they can say that they're ready for the quiz. All right, so if they do the quiz, so let us say this is the first one, and they have selected a response and it's incorrect, oh, I've been practicing, so this is giving me. So when I click continue, it will take me to the next question in the quiz based on how I'd set it up. All right. So if I continue, it tells me this, and then I can, let me put achiever here. I can continue with the quiz. All right. It tells me that I have 1 attempt remaining because when I had set it up, I had set it up for 2. All right. If I get it incorrect again, I can try again, or I can go on to the next section. Well, it's the next section is really you reviewing it. And then they can go through all they want. Once they get everything correct, it then takes them to a summary page. So we're going to set up something like that. Maybe a little bit simpler, but we're going to set up something like that. So you notice that each time I complete something, the progress bar increases. And this is a good way to allow students, it's giving them feedback informally, because it then tells them that you have been successful so far. All right, so I'm going to return to my normal role, and then we are going to create our own lesson. So are we ready? Say yes, raise your hand, say something. All right, so I'm going back to my course where I will create my lesson. I need to ensure that editing is turned on. All right, so I turn editing on, and then I scroll to where I want to create this activity. All right, so right here, I'm going to put it right. Let's put it in unit 1. I'm going to put it in unit 1. And so I will click on add an activity or resource. When I do that, I have, well, here I have starred the activities and resources that I tend to use a lot. Failing that, normally when you go in, you see all, or you can click on activities or click on resources to get what you want. But because there are some that I tend to use often, I star them. And so it comes up first, and it comes up with the ones that I usually use. So this is a neat little trick that you can use. Instead of searching through all of them, you can just go to the ones that you tend to use often. All right, so I'm interested in lesson. So I click on lesson, and it says add a new lesson. The first thing that I will do is that I will name my lesson. And so I'm not going to type for the rest of it. I'm actually going to copy and paste, but for this one, I will copy. All right. So the first thing that we're doing is that we're setting up the parameters of the lesson. The next thing that we will do is that we will build the lesson content. All right. So let's just move this over here. I'm using 2 monitors. So if you see me look across, it's simply because I am moving to the other section. All right. You can put a description in. letting the students know what this lesson is all about, or you can leave it as is for now. Usually we say try to put some information in. Okay, then you scroll down to where it says appearance and you can click on show more. All right, now the things that are really important. So we're not going to go through the final ones. We're going to go through the basic and the essential ones. So you would decide the number of answers. So if you want 5 answers, 5 content pages, you select 5. If you want 4, you click the drop down and select how many you want. And as you're testing it, if you decide that you want more or fewer, you can easily make that sort of change. Link to next activity, unless you are progressing in a particular way, you would leave that as none. Progress bar, if you want your students to see their progress as they go along, select yes. All right. And display menu is simply as they go through. I don't know how many of us are familiar with the book. You tend to have a little menu which has like a table of contents. So that is what this is. So in addition to the options that they have at the bottom of the page or at the side, depending on the layout you choose, you can then decide to display the menu. I'm leaving it at no. For availability, you can decide if you want to have a start time for the lesson and an end time, and if you want to put a time limit in. Yes, Deidre, go ahead.
Question, read the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend it for any specific context, or it's not needed?
I don't find it to be needed. It's like it duplicates the information. So you either have it at the bottom or you have it on the menu on the side. I can turn it on so that you can see what it would look like. All right, so let me turn it on so that you will see what it looks like. Okay, so you can decide whether or not you're going to put a start date, end date, and if you're going to put a time limit on your activity. If it's for practice purposes, you don't have to. If it's one of those summative activities, which we consider to be high stakes, you can then put a timer on it as you would for a mid-semester quiz or an end of semester quiz. For the flow control, and then the others have to do with whether or not you're going to password protect the lesson. Usually I leave that at no, and whether or not you can allow the lesson to be done offline if the students have the Moodle app. More and more students have mobile devices, so you can easily turn that on so that if they want to use the lesson on their mobile devices, they can do so. All right. Now for flow control, remember when we talk about flow control, about allowing the student to review the material and so forth, this is where you put your details in. So do I want the students to review the lesson for a practice lesson? Yes. Do I want to put something that says try again for a practice lesson? Yes. Or for something that is a formative activity that has a very low weighting. So yes, maximum number of attempts per question. Now you can decide whether or not you want to leave it as at unlimited or if you want to put a cap on it. So they can try twice and then move on, or they can try once, or they can do up to 10 times or unlimited number. It's really up to you. I like twice. All right. And then the grid on the show more. So if you click show more will just tell you what else is there. So the main ones that are shown, and then if you click show more, it shows additional. So after the students have answered the question and it's correct, what happens? It follows this normal path. You can also select that it goes to an unseen page, meaning that they don't see it. When they finish, it takes them to a page where you can put anything on it before they continue. Or it can go to an unanswered page, meaning that they didn't complete this and it carries them back. All right. And the number of pages to show has to do with how many pages the students see at a time. I limit it to 1. For grade, you can decide whether or not practice lessons do not show up in the grade book. So you can decide whether or not you are going to have a grade assigned to it. So I'm going to put none. And if I put none, it means that I can make it be a practice lesson. All right. And then you can decide if the scoring is going to be customized, meaning that you have 5 points that has a weighting of 1, that sort of thing. So you can determine whether or not you're going to use custom scoring, the minimum number of questions that the students have to answer. So for a practice, I wouldn't lock them into a minimum number. And if they are allowed to retake it, for this purpose, we're setting up a practice lesson, yes, they can retake. Just a quick reminder, if you are going through and you're not too sure about anything, there's a little quick help. And if you click this here, the little question mark, it gives you just a little tidbit of information that should help you. All right. And then the rest of it, we should be familiar with common module settings, whether or not you want to show it or not, restrict access, whether or not you want to lock it into something, activity completion. Now, for practice purposes, you can decide that the students will mark it when it's complete. I tend not to trust my students very well when it comes on to activities that contribute to a participation grade or an engagement grade. So I usually select show the activity as complete when the students have met the condition. And here I can then say that the students must reach the end of the lesson for it to be considered complete. Okay. If you're grading it, you can then decide that the students must receive a grade, and then you can further decide whether or not the grade must be a passing grade for it to be considered complete. And when you're finished with all of that, you can click save and return to course, which will carry you into the main page, or save and display, which will then open the lesson for you. Yes, Deidre, go ahead.
Can you go back to common module settings, please?
Here.
You can't add more than one restriction on it. It just has to be.
Oh, the common module settings is different from the restrict access aspect.
The thing there. Okay.
The activity completion?
No, is the group mode right there, the grouping I was looking at.
Oh, okay. I haven't set up groups in there, so.
Groups, okay, all right, no
All right.
problem. It's just that I was there and was trying to put in the grouping, but I think it's all right. I figured it out. I see what I was doing wrong.
All right, great. So shall we save and return to course, or shall we save and display?
Save and display.
All right, so let us save and display, which will then take us straight into it. So this is what it is telling me. What do I want to do first? Okay. You also have the collapsed, and you would have the expanded view. But right now we don't have anything because we haven't added any content as yet. So we won't see anything on the expanded until we have added some content. So we can import questions. So if you have your questions already set up, there are different formats that you can use to import. So there's the Akin, there's the gift or format. There are different ways where you can simply import once it is set up according to Moodle's requirements. You can import the questions without having to go to your question bank and add them one at a time. You can add a content page, which is where we will start. And then if you add a cluster is a series of question pages that as the students work through, it randomly pulls a question for them to answer. And then we can add a question page, which means that we are deliberate in what we do. So at a specific point, we add a question, and then we can add another question if we so desire. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to add a content page. And of course, if we're adding a content page, it means that we will have to have a title for the first aspect of our lesson. All right, so mine is going to be Welcome to Gamer Typology. So you type in the title of this first content page, okay? And then where it says page content, this is where you're going to put in the information, all right? So I am just going to copy and paste so that this goes a little faster. So this is where you're putting in your content. And because my course is called game-based learning in the Caribbean, I have decided that I will use a particular tone to engage my students. All right. So I have this information in and I want to put an image in. Okay. So I want to put my image right here. So I go to insert or edit image. I click on find. And then I already have some images uploaded, but just quickly to take us through how we would upload, you go to upload a file, choose show all files. It should bring up my Moodle lesson folder. And here I have files for my lesson sample. And this is the image that I want. So I simply click on it. The name comes up there. I click upload this file. And then I go across to appearance to resize it. All right, so this is a bit big. This may be too small, but let's see. And then I resize way too small. The only good thing at this point is that I don't have to re-upload it. I can simply drag and resize. All right, this probably looks a little bit too big. So there, and my first page is, my content for the first page is basically finished. Now it says that you can choose any typology, but I'm going to set it up in a little more linear way. So I'm gonna say, let's examine the killer profile. All right, now, oh, this should be let's examine the killer profile. Now what this tells me is that the next thing that is going to happen is that I'm going to have to set up what we call our content pages. These are the little buttons that appear on our lesson at the bottom or at the side. So this one is going to give me some idea of what comes next. And for this, I'm going to put meet the killers. All right. And then the jump would be taking me to the page that says meet the killers, but I haven't set up that page as yet. So I can't continue to anything as yet. So I leave this alone for now. Now, if there is a content tool, a second button that you want to put on it, I'm going to put a second button that says, let me leave now, which gives the students an out if they want. All right. If they leave now, it means that they would not have gone through the sections. All right. And then this can take me to end of the lesson, or I can take them to an unseen page that says, are you sure you want to leave? Yes, Lloyd, go ahead.
Question, can you add more content beyond the 4? Well, I have 2. Okay.
Yes. So, all right, let me save this page and show you. So if we go back into settings, you remember where I said, show more. Remember where I said maximum number of answers? So this has to do with your content pages. This is where you change it. So if I had 10, it means that my let me save and count. I have the option to put 10 different buttons. Let's call them buttons. All right. So let me go back in and show you what I'm talking about. See? So I can put up to 10.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. My 10 is a little bit crowded, so I'm going to put it back down to 4 or 5.
Just a quick question. Why do they call it maximum answers? It doesn't seem intuitive that it would tell me it's a content.
All right. Because I think, I'm not 100% sure, I'd probably have to double check it, but I think because if you look at how the pages are set out, well, I don't know. Come to think of it, I was just going to come up with something and I started working it out in my head and it doesn't make much sense. But they're really your buttons. Maybe they call them answers because you click on it to go somewhere else. I don't know. They don't call them jumps and they don't call them content pages. I suppose they don't call them content because they don't want to confuse us with our content pages. but why answers, I don't know. I don't know that one. I'll check it out for you. All right, Lloyd? All right, so I'm going back to 4 and I'm going back. Okay, so now, and I'm clicking back on edits. So you realize that you can go through and you can keep clicking edit each time in order to fix anything. So here I am, and now I can change this to expanded, which would give me a clearer view. So the first thing is going to say, meet the killers. The jump says to this page. I have leave, let's leave now, which would jump to end of the lesson. So you begin to see more details as you go along. All right. I tend to work in collapsed, and when I'm finished, I use the expanded just to double check and make sure that everything is all right. When we are editing the lesson, you realize that for each page, so this is our first content page that we created, we can move it if we have more pages. We can edit the particular page here. We can copy, we can preview, and we can delete. So that is what these icons mean. And if we want to add a new page, we can do it from right here. So at the end of this particular content page, we can add a new page and we can decide what page it is we want to add. All right. So let us add a new page. So I'm going to add a new page right here. I want to add another a content page. And the content page that I'm going to add will be this second typology. All right, so this one will be the explorers. All right, so for this particular page, I'm going to put, oh, I haven't set up the killer page as yet, don't it? I haven't set up the killer page as yet. So meet the killers. So I've only set up the jump. I actually haven't put the content in as yet. So now I'm going to put in the content for the killers. I want an image, and I had already uploaded my image. So this time, instead of going upload, I can simply go recent file. And there is my killer image. So I can select it. I can decide on the size. So I'm going to think 250. Of course, the size may be trial and error until you get it correct. All right. I want to center it, so I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to put in my content about the killer profile that may be in my classroom. All right, so I would type my information. Let me just take this out. And I want to do a little bit of editing. So I want to put this as bold. I want to draw my students' attention to this and a real world application. So I just want to put a little formatting. And of course, I want to put a video in this case. So I have image, I have text, but I want to put a video in. So I would simply go to where I want to insert my video. And then I go to my Moodle, insert Moodle media, click on find, and then I'm going to click on upload. So I'm going to look for where I have it. And again, I had put everything in my folder. So when you're putting your lesson together, ensure that you have all the things that you need in the same folder because it makes it a little easier. All right. And when I click on upload, that gives me a preview, which I can view from here. All right. So if I click on it, I can actually view it from here.
I love the thrill of.
And if I'm happy with it, I can click insert. Okay, now you don't see the preview of the video when you click here. What you'd have to do is save it and preview it before you can see that. Okay, so I'm happy with the information that I have in place. Yes, Anika, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to, well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to comment that there is a restriction on the file size of, file size that you can upload, and videos are notorious for being large. So one have to be mindful of the size one wants to upload. Otherwise, one would have to have it stored externally and link it,
externally and make a link. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And the next question, should anybody ask, let me just put something here so I can close. How do you know what your file size is for your Moodle? All right, so if we go to our course, usually we can tell. So if we go to the course and go to settings and we scroll down, there is something here that says files and uploads, and it tells you the limit. So the site limit, we have been limited by 300 megs. So if your video is larger than 300 megs, it will not upload. So it means that you would have to, one, compress your video, and there are some compression sites which are very good and give you pretty decent quality. One, that's compressing, or two, you put your video in maybe OneDrive or Google Drive. Make sure that you give access to anyone with a link, and then you copy the link and put it in here. All right. If I'd thought about it, I would have dropped it in so that you could see that. But that is how you know the file limit. So now we know that any course we're dealing with on the VLE, the file limit is 300. For other institutions, you may have a larger or a smaller file size. All right. All right, let me go back to our, thank you so much for that, Anika. All right. So I wasn't quite finished with the killer information. So so we have the video, we have that. And then our content pages now will either say, discover the explorers, because that is the next, that's the next set that I have, which will jump me to the explorers page, but I haven't created that as yet. So I leave it for now. And then content 2 would say, take me back or back to the gamer menu or back to the home page. All right, and that we have already set up, so we can easily look for it and click on that. And if we have another option that we want to give the students, you set it up the same way. All right, and when you save the page, we would now have this. Now, if I expand it, I have a closer look at what is happening. So here I have my welcome page, and it says, let's examine the killers. And then it's meet the killers. That is my label, my button, and it jumps to this page, which means that I have to now adjust this because I have a content page called meet the killers. All right, so I can easily do that adjustment now that I have created that page. Okay, so meet the killers is going to jump to meet the killers. And you can have different descriptions instead. You don't have to have meet the killers. You could have the killer profile, and then that would jump to meet the killers. All right. Any questions here? No? So we have created 2 content pages so far. I'm going to create a question page so that you can see how that works. So we have, let me put it back in collapse. So we have our welcome page and we have our meet the killer page, but at the end of meet the killer, there is something that says go on to discover the explorers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let me take a quiz. All right, and I'll have to set up the let me take a quiz page, and the second one would say back to home. All right, so let me take a quiz is going to signal to us that we have the option to either go back to the welcome page or take the quiz. All right, so now at the end of the meet the killers, I can create a question page. So when I click on question, we come to this particular window, which if we click the drop down here, we realize that we have a wide variety of options. So we can put in essay types. And if we're putting in essay types, we would have to put in the description to the students that they will not get a response right away for this particular activity. So you'd go in, grade it, assign the grade. But you can also put in your matching, your multiple choice, your numerical, your short answer, your true false. All right. So I'm going to do a short answer. Okay. Yes, let's do a short answer. Multiple choices tend to be the first things we do. So I'm going to click on add a question type. Okay. Now, when I add on the question type, we know that it is a multiple choice and question that we're going to put in. So what we're going to do is the same thing that we have done so far. We are going to name this particular question page. All right. So I'm going to put killer profile Q1. And that is to help me determine what it is. In here, I put the question. All right. So it's a fill in the blank kind of question. So I am putting my question here with a little dash. So my students know that they have to write their responses. And I put a hint. It's one of the player types. All right. And so I have my answers. Now, for the answers, you would write the responses. So let me just put the responses, Explorer. I'm putting the answers, not the feedback as yet. Achiever. Killer. And socializer. All right. And please note, you can determine how many more questions you add. So you can decide that you wanted to have 5 questions or 6 questions. And so you would easily set it up in the parameters when we're setting up the lessons. Okay. And then of course, because this is a writing thing, a short answer, where they have to input the responses for anything else that they give you, which may be wrong, you then can give some kind of feedback. Yes, Lloyd, go ahead.
In the interface I'm working, I'm seeing 10 answers and I'm not sure why. I thought
because I think when you had asked
Uh-huh.
if you wanted to have more content pages, and I had said, yes, the content pages work with your answers and your content pages. And you were saying, why were they called content pages? Why were they called answers? So that is where you fix everything. But it doesn't matter if you have 10. If you only want to use 2 or 4, that works. It just means that you have up to 10 that you can input.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So now we have put in our answers. We're going to put our feedback in. Now, remember, one of the things that we were working on was the whole idea of ensuring that our feedback wasn't just yes, no, or vague. So we had said that you could have verification, elaborative, constructive, and so forth. And where possible, if you can combine a number of different feedback types, that would be great. All right. So I am going to now put in the feedback. So for the first one, the correct answer is actually Explorer. All right. The Explorer type is more than likely to spend time documenting all the possible combinations and so forth. So I am putting my feedback here. And if I want to just expand this space so I can work a little bit more, I just pull it down. I have that option. Or I can click this one here that expands the whole page and I can see everything bigger. All right. Of course, when you want to return, you simply click it again to come back. So there are 2 ways of expanding your workspace. So here I have given verification and I have given elaborative feedback to my students. And I am putting a little icon that signals that they have done well where this is concerned. All right. And I am just resizing it. I want it to be a little bit smaller because that is large. And there is my first response. So the first response that I have is correct. My second answer and my third and my fourth will be incorrect. So let me put in my feedback for the others. So for the achiever, it's not quite. And then again, I extend on the responses. So you notice that I have an elaborative, and then I have a metacognitive sort of feedback where I'm forcing them to think, to reflect on something. All right. And then of course I tell them that they can review and try again, but I probably don't need that. And I'm gonna put a little icon that shows that they're not successful. No, you don't have to put an icon. I simply put the icon because, just because. All right. And then it's the nature of the game, of the lesson that I'm teaching. So I figured that that would work. And then I would put the responses in for the others. I'll just put blah for now so that you get an idea. All right. So I have my feedback and I have my answers. Yes, Lloyd, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for all the questions.
Listen, I'm happy that you're asking them.
For the response, I see you do the well done, then the elaborative, then the metacognitive. But how does the system recognize what is the correct answer apart from that text?
So we're getting to that now.
Oh, okay.
So we're getting to that now. Okay, so where you see score, this is where you put the score in. So I want, even though this is a short answer, it requires them to really think through the different types, and it's not very straightforward. So I want to give it 5 points. So if it's correct, they get 5 points. And so they have the points, and then they have the feedback, and then they have the image. Multiple means of representation and engagement, right? And then for the incorrect, notice it says score 0. So this is another thing that you'll have to check just to make sure that they don't get it incorrect and then end up getting a point for it. Okay. Now, if for all other answers, they come close enough and you want to give them something, you can do so. All right. But if it's incorrect, it's incorrect because I say, you know, I give you a hint. So there's only 1 of 4 possible responses for that. So you then indicate whether or not it is correct by the score. The other thing that you would have to do now is determine your jump. What happens now that they have gone through the content, done the activity? You can build more content pages, if you will. You can build more question pages, or it is 1:45, so we're going to end the lesson. So what we will do when they are finished, now I'm going to make a jump to a summary page, okay? So when they get it correct, the next page will be a summary page, but I haven't created the summary page as yet. So I'm going to save this, create the summary page, and then adjust my jumps. Any questions, any confusion, any clarification before I jump into my final page, which will then take them to the end of the lesson? No? All right, so I'm going to create, at the end of the question page, I'm going to create, oh there, I clicked on add a cluster. I don't want a cluster. Remember, the cluster is a series of question pages that are brought up. I clicked on the wrong thing. So I want to add a content page. And this content page is going to be wrapping it up. All right. And inside here, I will put the information that I want to go in, and I had copied and pasted the image. I don't know if it will actually read it, but I have my main content points, and then here I am recapping. So even if they went through the questions and they didn't get the answers correct and it takes them on to the next page, it still carries them to a recap page, which would have taken care of what exactly the lesson was about. And because this is a practice page, it really doesn't matter if they're skipping pages. What is important is that you ensure that before they leave the lesson, they have a summary of what exactly the lesson would have been about. All right, so it's just us trying to ensure that we cover our bases for those students who may want to skip through and then have something that says that they have successfully completed the lesson. All right, now my jumps. I would have restart. Restart the lesson as a jump, which would take me to welcome to gamer typologies. The second content would be, I'm finished now. And it doesn't have to be as informal as this. And that would take us to the end of lesson page because they're finished. And then you could probably have a third one which says, let me redo the quiz. Which would take them to the quiz question. All right. Now let me save this. Go ahead, Loy.
Can you just go back over the jump, please?
The jump for the summary page?
Mm-hmm.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
In fact, let me. Okay, so this is the summary page where I've put all my summary in. The summary page is where we're wrapping it up, but we're also giving the students the option to restart the lesson, to redo the quiz, or to leave the lesson. Okay, so those are our jumps. So we can put our description that we want them to restart the lesson. And if we want them to restart the lesson, it would go to the first thing that we created. Welcome to the game of typologies. If we want them to have something that says, I'm finished, I'm ready to leave. I'm gonna put I'm ready to leave. Okay, the jump will take them to the end of the lesson because they're ready to leave. And then if you want them to decide if they want to redo the quiz, then you would take them to the quiz question. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right, and this is one of the reasons why it is important for you to work it out on paper, have it planned out, what goes where. If after they finish this content, are they going to do a question or are they going to go on to the other piece of content that I have? So the planning template helps you to see exactly what goes where, and then you simply translate that to this. Now, for my killer profile, I have to go back in because I needed that if they get it correct, then it would carry them to the summary page. All right, so I can make that adjustment. And I can decide that I'll do that for all of them. Just take them to the summary page because they'll have two options, two attempts at the question. So if after that, did I have 4? All right, it doesn't matter what I have here. I'm just going to take all of them to the final page, which is wrapping it up. Somebody's hand went up just now? No? All right, so this is what it looks like. I want to preview what the lesson would look like, okay? Now let me take a quick look at what it looks like expanded. Okay, so expanded, I see that I have my content, I have my jumps, these look good. I have my killer, I have my video, I have my links or my audio, whatever it is I put in there. And then I have my jump where it's going to take me to the quiz, and the jump says this page. So that means that I have to flag it because once the students click take me to the quiz, it's not going to move. It's going to keep them on this page. So it means that I have to go in and make that adjustment. So the expanded view helps. So content 1, take me to the quiz, would take me to the quiz. All right. And content 2 is fine. So let me take a look at that again. Take me to the quiz will carry me to the question. Take me to the home page would carry me back to the home page. All right. And then this is the quiz. If it's correct or incorrect, it carries them to the end of page. All right. And then on the end of page, the last page, which is my summary page, I have my content, and my jump says that they can restart the lesson. they can go to the end of the lesson, signaled by the text, I am ready to leave, or they can redo the quiz. Now, let us look at this from student view. So I go up here. It's going to give me an error message. So let me go to the main page. All right, so here I am. I'm switching role to student. So as a student, I'm in unit 1 and I see understanding gamer types. Okay, I click on it. I see that it says welcome to gamer typologies. And then it says that I am 0%. So I don't want to leave right now. I want to meet the killers. So I meet the killers, I see the information, I play my video, I get
love
the
the
information, I read about famous examples, I see real world applications, and then I want to take the quiz. Okay, when I go to the quiz, if I put in something that's incorrect, I will submit that. It will ask me if I want to try again because I'd said they have two attempts. All right, so I want to try again, and therefore I'm going to put in Explorer because that is the correct response. And so it gives me my feedback. My feedback is more than just verification. It also elaborates on it. And when I click on continue, it is now going to carry me to this summary page that I've set up. There is my summary page, which gives a summary, an overview of a recap of what it is we did, the main learning points and the key characteristics of each. So even if they skipped anything, this still captures everything. They can restart the lesson. So this was what we were doing on the last page, Loy. They can restart the lesson. They can say that they're ready to leave, or they can redo the quiz. Now, they're ready to leave carries them to the end of the page, and it tells them that this is your score. You have completed it 100%. You can review your lesson, or you can go back to your main course. Wow, isn't that interesting? So the Moodle lesson is something that is underutilized, but it is something that has so much potential in terms of how we can engage our students. Go ahead, Nikisha.
Michelle, I'm so happy for this. I'm going to age know that we can do this in Moodle. You know what I use? PowerPoint and do a courseware.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes.
I
All
didn't
right.
know.
Now you do, and you can practice.
Yes,
And
and
you
this
can
is so
reach,
much easier. This is
and
much
you,
easier.
yes. And once you set up the plan, it makes it even easier than what we just went through. All right.
Yeah.
Deidre then Loy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Michelle if each quiz question must be on a separate page.
You can set up a cluster. So if you set up
so
a
that's
cluster,
how the cluster comes in.
yes. So the cluster allows you to put in a number of activities. So when you a number of items. So when you do one, then what comes up on the page is a next question. So they go through that series before it takes them to another content page. Or yes. Yes, Loy.
If a student gets to the middle of the activities and things, but then they decide to leave, will the progress bar say that they have not completed?
Yes, it will tell them that they have reached 76%. So I don't know if you remember when I just started and I was looking at it in student view, it says you have 57% completed. So
Yeah.
once they haven't reached the end, it will not tell them that they have 100%, but it will not tell them that you haven't completed and just leave it at that. It will tell them the percentage completion that they are at. And then it will ask them, you may have noticed that when I just logged in, it asks the question that says, you have already started, do you wish to continue? So they can continue or they can restart. It's a beautiful, underutilized tool. Yes, Anika.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I've used Moodle, but I haven't used Moodle lessons. I've been using the H5P in there. But I was kind of using the Global Campus Moodle to compare the as you were working along. So I may have missed something. When you set up the first menu that you get into when you select setting up a lesson, right? It allows you to set the title. It allows you to set, there's a window for content, right?
Yes.
And then you can you select how the various added content pages that you want.
Yes.
What I'm wondering is there a setting for that the initial content when you're just setting up the lesson, the content that you place there in that window? Can you have it so that it doesn't appear on every page that you go to? Because at the moment, what I'm finding is that that first page is still at the top when I go to the next content page that I select by the buttons below.
This one, which content page?
Okay,
Let me put it in student mode. Were you looking at it from student mode?
Yeah, I looked at it in student mode as well. So I don't know if it's a setting that includes. If you start at the beginning page,
so this is in the lesson or the parameters of setting up the lesson?
Well, then you would have to be in edit mode. But yeah, in both cases. So here, when you click on Meet the Killers.
Oh, you mean up here?
Yeah, so what I'm finding that I'm getting content from the first page still up there. Do I have to make, yeah, because I put in the introduction. I put in the introduction there. On my version,
you put in the all that information on the
and it's showing up, it stays up there no matter which page I go to.
Yes, I think what you did was to put the information here.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and because I didn't do that, that doesn't show. So what it means, therefore, is that you probably don't put any information here, but anything that you want to describe to the students that you'd put here, I'd probably put it on the first page of the lesson.
Oh, okay.
So that way you wouldn't have the title and then all the content that you would have put in the description.
Yeah, keep it, because it will keep repeat, so to speak.
Exactly.
No matter which page you go on. Okay. Yeah, because that kind of puzzled me.
Okay. All right, ladies. I don't know if any gentlemen came, but thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. I realized that, some persons got very excited, and I'm happy. I'm happy when we do our sessions and you realize that you have this tool right here. You probably just didn't know that you could do that. So I am encouraging us to fool around with the lesson, fool around with it. You have different ways of engaging your students. You can use multimedia, you can use different question types, you can use different layouts, you can include your links, you can put so many things. Be mindful of the size of your files. The VLE here for Mona has a 300 megabyte limit. You may have to compress files or save them in an external folder and make a link to that. Remember that this is a tool. It's a beautiful tool, but it is still a tool, and we would love to hear from you if you try it. We will post the video when it's ready to our CETL YouTube, so you can access it there and you can practice as much as you want to. And I'll be doing a little visual tutorial that will accompany it. So thank you so much for joining. We have shared the evaluation link. Please, we want to hear from you. And we look forward to the next time we have our session. I have another one coming up on the 27th, I think, which looks at feedback and escape rooms. So thank you so much for coming and for staying. I'm Michelle McCoy, and I'll see us again very soon. Have a good one, ladies. Thank you, Miss Barclay.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart. Informative.
I'm happy. You're welcome.